Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that can change your life forever. The day you break the pattern, you break the cycle. See, most people live on repeat. They wake up, do the same thing, complain about the same problems, and then wonder why nothing changes. The truth is, your life is designed by the patterns you choose to live with. And if those patterns don't serve your future, you got to break them before they bury you. Patterns are comfortable, but comfort zones are where dreams go to die. When you take the courage to step out of what's familiar, that's the first day you open the door to transformation. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that most people don't realize until it's too late. Your life is made up of patterns. Every single day you repeat actions, habits, and choices that eventually shape the outcome of your life. You wake up at the same time, you think the same thoughts, you react to the same situations in the same way, and you convince yourself that this is just who you are. But the truth is, who you are is being determined by the patterns you allow. A pattern is not just a habit, it's a design. It's the blueprint your life follows. And if you don't change the blueprint, you don't change the building. If you keep doing the same things, you'll keep getting the same results. That's why so many people stay stuck. They wonder why their lives look like a loop, why they keep ending up in the same struggles, the same disappointments, the same frustration. It's because they are living inside a cycle that is powered by patterns they refuse to break. See, patterns are comfortable. Patterns are easy. Patterns don't require courage. It feels safe to stay in the routine you've always known. Even when you don't like the results it gives you. That's why some people complain about their job every single day, but never update their resume. That's why some people stay in toxic relationships, even though they know deep down it's destroying their peace. That's why some people talk about wanting success, but spend their free time doing things that don't bring them closer to their goals. It's not because they don't want better. It's because they're trapped in a pattern. And until you wake up and recognize the power those patterns have over your life, you will continue to live a cycle that keeps you frustrated, tired, and unfulfilled. The day you break the pattern is the day you break the cycle. And what I mean by that is the moment you decide to do something different, something uncomfortable, something bold, something outside of your usual way of living, that's when change begins. Maybe you've been telling yourself you're not good enough, and so you keep playing small. That's a pattern. Maybe you always quit when things get tough. That's a pattern. Maybe you always wait for the right time, the right season, the right opportunity, and so you never actually move forward. That's a pattern. And until you stop repeating those choices, you will stay stuck in the same cycle. But here's the good news. You have the power to break it. Nobody else has to give you permission. Nobody else has to save you. You can make a decision right now to choose differently. It won't be easy because the familiar will always call you back. That voice in your head will say, just stay where you are. It's too risky to change. But what you have to understand is that comfort is the enemy of growth. If you keep chasing comfort, you will never know the power of transformation. Sometimes you have to shock your system. You have to wake yourself up by doing something you've never done before. That's what breaking the pattern looks like. It's deciding to stop accepting average. It's deciding to stop entertaining negativity. It's deciding to stop believing the lies you've been telling yourself and start acting like the person you were created to be. Every great change in life comes from that one decision, to break a pattern that no longer serves you. And the beauty of it is once you do it, once you prove to yourself that you can choose differently, the cycle begins to shift. Cycles don't just exist in your life by accident. They are built and sustained over time because no one chooses to stop them. When you look at families, you can see patterns that have been passed down for generations. Poverty, broken marriages, addiction, anger, self-doubt. And you realize that it's not because those people wanted to live that way. It's because nobody stood up and said, this stops with me. The truth is, cycles are inherited when patterns are repeated. A child grows up watching their parents struggle. They learn the same responses to money, to relationships, to fear, and then they carry those same behaviors into their own adult lives. And before you know it, the cycle is alive and well in another generation. That's why so many people feel like they are fighting battles that started long before they were even born. But here's what you need to understand. While you may have inherited the cycle, you also have the power to interrupt it. When you decide to break a pattern, you are not just changing your story, you are rewriting the script for everyone who comes after you. That's the power of being the cycle breaker. Think about it. If your parents struggle with money because nobody ever taught them how to save or invest, then you could be the one who learns, applies the knowledge, and builds wealth that your children will inherit. If anger and broken relationships have been a pattern in your family, you could be the one who chooses peace, forgiveness, and emotional growth. And in doing so, you teach your children how to love differently. If self-doubt and fear have been passed down like a hand-me-down coat, you can choose to replace it with faith and confidence so your children don't grow up believing they are limited. That's legacy work. That's breaking the cycle. But the challenge is this: it requires courage, because breaking the cycle feels like going against everything you've ever known. People around you might not understand. Your family might resist it. Your friends might question it. And you might even doubt yourself. But that's the test. You don't break cycles by being comfortable. You break them by being bold enough to do what hasn't been done before. If everyone before you quit, you keep going. If everyone before you lived in fear, you live in faith. If everyone before you accepted struggle as normal, you decide that abundance is your birthright. And when you take that stand, you might feel alone at first, but you won't be alone forever, because your example will start to inspire others. What you must realize is that cycles are not just personal, they are generational. If you don't deal with them, your children will have to. If you don't heal, your children will inherit the wounds. If you don't rise, your children will start from the same place you did. But if you make the choice to confront the cycle now, you give them a different starting point. You give them a new foundation to build on. You give them opportunities and freedoms that you didn't have. That's the reward for breaking a cycle. You don't just save yourself, you save generations after you. Patterns are not just about what you do, they're about how you think, because every single action in your life starts in the mind. If your thoughts are limited, your life will be limited. If your thoughts are negative, your experiences will be negative. The cycle you're living in right now is a direct reflection of the thoughts you've been feeding yourself every single day. Most people don't realize how powerful the mind is, and they don't take control of it. They let fear, doubt, and insecurity run the show, and then they wonder why they keep running into the same problems. The reality is, your thoughts are the seeds and your life is the harvest. If you want to change the harvest, you have to change the seed you're planting in your mind. You see, small thinking creates small living. If you spend all day telling yourself you can't, you won't. If you constantly replay your failures, you'll never see your future clearly. If you accept that you're not smart enough, strong enough, or worthy enough, you'll start living out those lies like they're true. That's the power of the pattern of your thoughts. Your mind has the ability to keep you trapped in the same cycle forever if you don't make the decision to shift your focus and elevate your thinking. You cannot expect a life of abundance if your thoughts are rooted in scarcity. You cannot expect to experience love if your thoughts are consumed by rejection. You cannot expect success if your thoughts are dominated by failure. The pattern of your mind becomes the reality of your life. Breaking the mental pattern means reprogramming how you think. It means paying attention to the words you speak to yourself when no one else is around. It means replacing I can't with I will find a way. It means shifting from I'm stuck to I'm growing. It means refusing to entertain thoughts that belittle your potential. Because let me tell you, your mind is the battleground, and most people lose the fight there long before they take a single action. You can have all the talent in the world, but if your mind is trapped in negativity, you will sabotage yourself every time. On the other hand, you can have less talent, fewer resources, less opportunity. But if your mind is full of faith, resilience, and determination, you will find a way to succeed. That's how powerful the pattern of your thinking is. The cycle doesn't break until the mind breaks free first. Once your mind accepts the possibility of something greater, your life starts to follow in that direction. When you train your thoughts to focus on what's possible instead of what's impossible, you begin to see doors where you once only saw walls. When you choose to believe in yourself, you stop looking for validation from people who never believed in you in the first place. When you speak words of victory, you stop living in defeat. It all starts with the mental decision to no longer allow the old thoughts to control you. Most people spend their whole lives imprisoned by the same limited mindset. They never test their own capacity because their mind keeps telling them they can't handle it. But the day you decide to silence the voice of limitation and start speaking the language of growth, that's the day you put cracks in the cycle. Little by little, those cracks expand, and eventually the old mental pattern breaks apart. That's when you discover that your mind is not your enemy, it is your greatest weapon. And if you train it right, there is no cycle strong enough to hold you captive. When you take a hard look at your life, you realize that patterns don't just live in your thoughts, they live in your daily habits. Every single thing you do, from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed, is shaping the cycle you're in. Habits are like bricks, and every day you are laying down bricks that build the house you will eventually have to live in. If your habits are weak, your house will be weak. If your habits are lazy, your house will be unstable. If your habits are negative, your house will collapse. But if your habits are disciplined, your house will be strong. If your habits are consistent, your house will last. If your habits are intentional, your house will reflect the life you've been dreaming of. People want to change their lives, but they don't want to change their habits. And that's why they stay stuck in the same cycle. The truth is, success is not built on one big breakthrough. It's built on the daily decisions nobody sees. It's built on the mornings when you wake up early and push yourself even when you don't feel like it. It's built on the nights when you stay focused on your goals instead of wasting time on distractions. It's built on the choices you make when nobody is watching. People love to celebrate the big victories, but they don't see the small, consistent habits that created them. If your habit is procrastination, your cycle will always be regret. If your habit is excuses, your cycle will always be failure. If your habit is negativity, your cycle will always be disappointment. But if your habit is discipline, your cycle becomes achievement. If your habit is consistency, your cycle becomes progress. If your habit is growth, your cycle becomes transformation. Habits are powerful because they run on autopilot. Once you create a habit, you don't even have to think about it. It starts to run your life for you. That's why bad habits are so dangerous, because they create cycles that feel normal. You don't even notice you're sabotaging yourself because it's just what you always do. But the same power that builds bad habits and build good ones, the key is to take control and replace the habits that are hurting you with the habits that can help you. You might think it's too small to matter, but small changes create big transformations. Drinking more water, reading every day, praying, exercising, practicing gratitude, saving a little money, speaking kindly to yourself. These small habits compound over time and create cycles of success, peace, and abundance. The cycle of your life is a reflection of the systems you create. If you don't have a system, life will create one for you, and it usually won't be the one you want. You can't just wish your way into a new cycle. You can't just hope your way into a better life. You have to work your way into it by building habits that support your vision. The good news is, habits don't care who you are. They don't care how much money you have or what background you come from. A habit will serve anyone who is willing to commit to it. That means if you choose the right patterns every day, it doesn't matter what the cycle of your past looks like. You can still create a new one for your future. Every time you take a step in discipline, every time you choose growth over comfort, every time you sacrifice short-term pleasure for long-term reward, you are breaking the old pattern. And each time you do it, the old cycle loses its power over you. That's how transformation happens. Not overnight, not in one giant leap, but in the small daily decisions that stack up until they build a whole new life. Every cycle that traps you has one main protector, and that protector is fear. Fear is the voice that tells you to stay where you are, even when you know you deserve better. Fear whispers in your ear that change is too risky, that stepping out might end in failure, that you're not qualified enough, not strong enough, not lucky enough. Fear convinces you that the familiar, no matter how miserable it is safer than the unknown. Fear, and that's how cycles survive, because fear becomes the guard at the door, keeping you from walking into the new. Most people don't even realize that fear is running their lives. They think they're making safe choices, but really, they're making fearful choices. They think they're being practical, but really, they're being controlled by a voice that doesn't want them to grow. Fear is not always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, subtle, and disguised as logic. It shows up as procrastination, making you wait for the perfect time that never comes. It shows up as doubt, making you question every opportunity until you talk yourself out of it. It shows up as excuses, convincing you that you'll start tomorrow, next week, or next year. And while you wait, while you doubt, while you excuse, the cycle strengthens itself around you. The longer you listen to fear, the deeper the cycle digs its roots into your life. That's why some people live decades repeating the same mistakes. They've allowed fear to be the pilot of their lives. The truth is, fear will never leave completely. It's always going to be there when you try to step into something greater, because fear thrives in transition. But here's the difference between people who stay stuck and people who break free. The ones who break free act even when they feel fear. They don't let the emotion control their decision. They feel the fear and still move forward. They take the leap even when their legs are shaking. They speak up even when their voice is trembling. They try even when they don't know the outcome. That's what courage is. It's not the absence of fear. It's the refusal to let fear have the final say. When you start moving despite fear, something powerful happens. The fear begins to lose its grip. The cycle begins to crack, because fear can only control you if you obey it. The moment you disobey fear, the pattern starts to weaken. That's when you begin to experience freedom, because you realize that fear was nothing more than a shadow pretending to be a wall. It had no real power except the power you gave it. And once you see that, you stop respecting fear and you start respecting your potential. The pain of standing in the same place will always be worse than the fear of moving forward. The discomfort of living beneath your potential will always outweigh the risk of chasing something greater. The truth is, you're already paying a price for staying stuck. You're paying with your peace, your time, your dreams, and your joy. If you're going to pay a price, why not pay it for freedom, for growth, for purpose, for a life that actually excites you? Fear will try to convince you that change will hurt, but staying in the same cycle is what truly destroys you. The key is to make fear your signal instead of your stop sign. When fear shows up, it usually means you're about to step into something important, something bigger than you, something that has the power to change your life. So instead of backing away, let fear become the proof that you're on the right track. Because the day you decide to stop letting fear guard the cycle, that's the day the cycle no longer has the strength to contain you. Breaking a cycle is not something that happens in one moment of inspiration. It's something that happens through persistence. You can make a decision today to change, but that decision has to be repeated tomorrow, the day after, and the day after that. Persistence is what turns a decision into a lifestyle. It's what takes a temporary breakthrough and makes it a permanent transformation. The truth is, the cycle you're trying to break didn't form overnight. It was built brick by brick, year after year, through repeated patterns. So don't expect it to collapse with one push. You have to keep pressing, keep chipping away, keep showing up, even when it feels like nothing is changing. Every act of persistence is another crack in the old wall that has been holding you back. Most people give up too soon. They try once, and when it doesn't work instantly, they go back to the old pattern. They pray once, they apply for a job once, they start a business once, they work on themselves for a few weeks, and then when the results don't show up right away, they assume it's not meant for them. But success doesn't respond to one-time effort. It responds to consistent effort. Persistence is the difference between those who wish and those who achieve. A person who persists will outlast someone with more talent, more resources, and more opportunities, because persistence is a weapon. It doesn't matter how slow you go as long as you don't stop. Every step forward, no matter how small, is progress. Persistence also means reminding yourself why you started in the first place. Because let's be honest, when you're in the middle of breaking a cycle, there will be days when quitting looks easier. There will be days when the old pattern feels more comfortable than building the new one. There will be days when the people around you don't support you, and you start questioning if it's even worth it. That's when you need to go back to your why. Why did you decide to break this pattern? Why did you want to change in the first place? Was it for your children, for your peace of mind, for your freedom, for your future? Holding on to your why is what gives you the strength to keep going when the process gets tough. You also have to understand that persistence is not about perfection. You will slip up. You will make mistakes. You will have days when you fall back into old habits. But persistence is about getting back up, not staying down. Every time you get back up, you're proving to yourself that you are stronger than the cycle. Every time you rise after a setback, you weaken the hold that the old pattern had on you. Persistence is not about never falling, it's about refusing to stay on the ground when you do. The truth is, persistence creates momentum, and momentum creates change. At first, it feels like you're pushing against something that won't move, but eventually, with enough pressure, with enough persistence, it starts to shift. The more you push, the more it moves, and one day, the very cycle that felt unbreakable will collapse under the weight of your persistence. That's when you look back and realize it wasn't one giant act that set you free. It was the small, consistent choices you made to keep showing up, keep believing, and keep pressing forward, even when it didn't make sense. Persistence is the secret weapon of every cycle breaker. It's the proof that you are serious about your transformation. It's the evidence that you're not just motivated, you're committed. It's the habit of refusing to let go of the vision, no matter how many times life tries to knock it out of your hands. And when persistence becomes your pattern, the old cycle doesn't stand a chance.